Hello everyone, and welcome to the final Max Mode in the Five Nights at Candy's But Better series, Rat and Cat All Challenges. In my previous video, I beat the other Max Mode in FNAF 3 But Better, being Puppet Master All Challenges. I chose to do PMAC first because I thought Vinny's attacks would be a lot easier than Rat and Cat's more twitchy triangular attacks. That ended up being a huge mistake, as PMAC would turn into the hardest challenge I'd ever attempted, taking nearly 2 months to complete. According to the FNAF Max Mode list, PMAC was easier than some of the other FNAF But Better Max Modes I completed, but it had still taken me way more time than Blood 720 and Hardest Raining Nightmare. Going into Rat and Cat All Challenges, I was pretty worried because I had really struggled while practicing their attacks, and I had a really hard time figuring out how the Night's cycle worked. Rat and Cat All Challenges was also just a Max Mode I'd always viewed as too difficult for me. When I first learned about Max Modes in FNAF fan games, Rat and Cat All Challenges was one of the hardest Max Modes at that point. It had blown my mind to see something that difficult, especially since 5020 was the hardest Max Mode I'd known up to that point. Since then, it's definitely no longer iconic for its difficulty, especially after the 3.0 update, but it's still a very popular Max Mode. Like the name suggests, Rat and Cat All Challenges features Rat, Cat, and then the version of Cat in the original Five Nights at Candy's 3. We'll talk more about them in a bit, but first let's go over all of the additional challenges that really give this night its difficulty. The first two challenges are the Shadow Rat and Shadow Cat challenges. These turn Rat and Cat into shadowy versions of themselves, which makes all of their attacks longer and more difficult, while also changing how Shadow Cat works. While Rat starts at the doors in the bedroom you have to defend, then goes under the bed after you do his attack, then leaves after you lure him out from under the bed. Cat will start at the door, then go under the bed, then do an attack after you lure him from under the bed before leaving. Shadow Cat will now always be under the bed, even after you do his attack, which now features a short attack at one side of the room and a much longer one in a different part of the room. I'll go into much more detail about Shadow Rat and Cat later, but for now, just know that their shadowy versions are much more difficult than their original versions. Next is the Classic Cat Challenge. Like I mentioned earlier, Rat and Cat All Challenges features the new version of Cat, along with the old version from the original Five Nights at Candy's 3. In that game, Cat would appear at one of the sides of your bed and would leave after you flash him all the way down. In FNAF 3 But Better, with the Classic Cat Challenge active, Classic Cat will now always be active and will just switch sides when you flash him all the way down. He won't progress when he's on the same side that you're on, but will slowly progress when you're in the middle of the room, and will progress pretty fast when you're on the opposite side he's on and when you're under the bed. Classic will play a breathing noise that will get louder depending on how close he is to killing you. Next is Hard Cassette. Hard Cassette has two effects, the first being the sleep effect. Normally you have a tape player that you use to speed up the night, but eventually you'll have to rewind it after it plays all the way. The sleep effect makes your vision slowly cloud up when the tape isn't playing, making it harder and harder to see, and then eventually you will die. To get rid of your cloudy vision, you just need to play the tape player for any amount of time. This isn't as much of an issue in Rat and Cat All Challenges as it is in Puppet Master All Challenges, but the much harder effect of Hard Cassette is that it gets rid of the tape player's speed up ability, making the night length go from around 4.5 minutes all the way to over 8 minutes. Finally, there is Laser Pointer. Laser Pointer takes your already very limited vision and makes it half as large as it was previously. It is by far the hardest challenge and is what makes this night so difficult, but it used to be even more difficult. In older versions of FNAF 3 But Better, the Laser Pointer wouldn't just decrease your vision, but would also decrease the hitboxes of Rat and Cat. This was later changed in version 3.1.0 of FNAF But Better, which made both Rat and Cat All Challenges and Puppet Master All Challenges much easier and absolutely tank them on the max modes list. You can still play the old Laser Pointer if you type torture into the menu, because playing with OG Laser Pointer is pure torture. Since I did PMAC with the new Laser Pointer, I would do the same with Rat and Cat All Challenges. Before we get into the cycle of the night, I'm gonna spend a bunch of time talking about how Rat and Cat work, since they are 99% of the night's difficulty. First, I'll talk about Rat. Like I mentioned earlier, Shadow Rat will start at a door in the room you defend. He will occasionally poke out of either the doors to the left or right parts of the room, or the wardrobe in the middle of the room. When he does this, he will play a knocking noise that sounds like this. You can install him in any of these locations by shining your light on him, but he will eventually get in and you will have to get rid of him. When he gets in, the screen will flash and you'll have to go to whatever location he is in. At each location, Rat has 3 positions. At the left, he can move in a small triangle, at the right, he can move in a much larger triangle, and at the middle, he moves in a very tight triangle that's basically just a curved line. When Rat's attack begins, his head will always be in the middle of the 3 positions he can be in. To get rid of him, you will have to keep your light on him during his entire attack while he twitches all over the place. Both Rat and Cat have a progression bar that slowly drains whenever your mouse isn't on them. If the bar gets empty, then they will kill you, rather than having a constant kill timer like Vinny and Puppet Master all challenges. Rat moves in a steady pattern, switching positions after about a quarter of a second, but he also has a 1 in 3 chance to twitch and move super fast. In total, he can do 25 different moves, but can only do up to 10 twitches. This might not sound too difficult, but he can chain twitches, which is where the real difficulty is. After you do all of Rat's attack, the screen will flash again, and he will go under the bed to a random side. When this happens, you will check under the bed to see which side he's on, and then go to the opposite side of the bed to lure him out. Which side of the room you're on depends only on your mouse position and not your character's position. Rat will play a creaking noise when he comes out from under the bed, where you'll have to move your cursor onto him as fast as possible. This is an incredibly tight window, but thankfully you don't have to go all the way to the opposite side of the bed since that would be impossible. Here's a visual guide of the 3 sections of the room. The visual cue that I like to use for each side is the green box on the shelf on the left and the bedpost on the right, but don't go too close to the bedpost or you will die, so make sure to give a little bit of space between your cursor and the bedpost.
No way! I must have been too far left by pixels. What the fuck? You're telling me that is too far?
When you get rid of him from the side of the bed, he will go back to the doors where he'll repeat this cycle. Next we have Shadow Cat, who works a bit differently than Rat. Instead of starting at the doors, Cat will immediately start under the bed. You'll have to go under the bed right as the night starts, and then go to the opposite side of the bed to lure him out, where you can use the same visual cues that we used for Rat. After that, Cat will play the same bed creaking noise that Rat does, and then you'll have to flash him, but you'll have way more time than you would with Rat. After this, Cat's attack begins on the side that you flash him on. He'll move in the same positions that Rat does, with his head starting in the middle position. Cat doesn't really have a rhythm like Rat, since the amount of time you have to shine your light on him before he moves again is random. He'll either wait for 13 hundredths of a second, 26 hundredths of a second, or 4/10ths of a second, but he can also move instantly, which basically acts like one of Rat's twitches. Cat has 2 phases of his attack, the first phase lasting 8 total movements, and the second lasting 19. When the first phase ends, you want to pay close attention to where Cat's head last was. After that, Cat will move to either the middle of the room or the opposite side of where the first phase was. Instead of always starting at his middle position, Cat will start at either position his last phase didn't end on, which is why you want to pay attention to that. For example, if Cat's first phase ended in the middle position, then his next phase will start on either the left or right positions. Then Cat will do his much longer second phase and then go under the bed, where this cycle repeats. A small thing to note is that when he's close to coming out from under the bed, the humming noise he usually plays will get pretty loud, but this doesn't really matter in this version of FNAF 3 but better. Since both Rat and Cat act so differently, you're probably wondering how they work together, plus the addition of Classic Cat, so let's get into the full cycle of the night. One huge benefit of Rat and Cat All challenges is that its difficulty is constant throughout the entire night, unlike Puppet Master All challenges, which progressively gets harder as the night goes on. The only thing that can really make this night get harder is how many times Rat and Cat go to the right part of the room, since it's easily the hardest of the 3 locations they attack from. Cat also has a bit of RNG because of how he moves, but if you're good enough, you can almost always win one of his attacks. You start the night by playing the tape player, then you go under the bed and look to the right to see where Cat is. If you see him, then move all the way to the right and flash Classic Cat all the way down to make him switch sides. If you don't see him, then move all the way to the left and do the same thing. After you flash Classic all the way down, go to the door that's on the same side that you were on, wait until you hear a quiet knocking noise that sounds like this. When you hear that noise, Rat is at one of the 3 entrances and you want to stall him at the doors so you can do all of Cat's attack uninterrupted. If you see him at the door you're already at, then go to whatever side you need to go to lure Cat out from under the bed. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to go all the way, so make sure to use these indicators as a place to put your cursor. If you don't see Rat at the first door, then move your mouse over the other 2 entrances until you hear a thud, which plays when you stall him. After you stall Rat, go to one of the indicators and wait until you hear a creaking noise, which plays when Cat leaves from under the bed. When the creaking noise plays, move over to where Cat will come out from and do the first phase of his attack. After his first phase ends, start moving towards the opposite side of the room. Cat's second phase will start in either the middle of the room or the opposite side of where the first phase was. When his second phase ends, you want to go and flash Classic Cat down a bit depending on which entrance Rat is at. If Cat's second phase ends at the left or right parts of the room, pay attention to the door to see if Rat is poking out. It is very important to not get too close to him because if you stall him at the doors now, it will mess up the entire cycle and you will die. Version 3.1.0 of FNAC 3 but better made laser pointer much easier in many ways, but looking at the doors is actually harder because Rat's hitbox is normal sized, unlike with the old laser pointer which made it smaller. My best advice is to look at the bottom part of the door since Rat's door hitbox is only his head rather than the entire door. If Rat is at the door, then flash Classic Cat down most of the way but not entirely since he will move much faster if he's on the opposite side. After you flash him down a decent bit, wait for Rat to enter the room and do his attack. If Rat isn't at the door, then you want to flash Classic Cat down as much as possible or all the way if you have enough time. After you flash him down all the way, wait until the screen flashes and then move to the opposite side until Rat's attack begins. If the screen flashes while you're dealing with Classic, just flash him down as much as you can. When you're done with Rat's attack, go rewind the tape player. If you still need to flash Classic a little more, do that and then rewind the tape player. After rewinding, you want to go under the bed and move to whichever side you are closest to. If you see Rat, then move to the opposite side and switch Classic if needed so that he's on the same side as Rat. If you see Cat, then stay on the same side and switch Classic if needed. Then wait until you hear the bed creaking noise, and the second you hear it, move to the opposite side and flash Rat until he leaves. This is an incredibly tight timing, so it's very important to do this as fast as possible. After he leaves, flash Classic a little bit but not all the way and go to stop rewinding the tape player, but wait a second before actually playing the tape so you get as much rewind time as possible. Finally, after you play the tape, flash Classic down a little more but still not all the way and look at the door. Then you wait until you hear the quiet knocking noise and the bed creaking noise and then go over all the entrances until you stall Rat and the cycle repeats. Thankfully the time you have to flash Cat at the side of the bed is much more lenient compared to the time you have to flash Rat at the side of the bed. Editing Nat here. This is something I learned deep into the making of this video, but there's a lovely bug in the current version of FNAC 3 but better that makes Rat and Cat actually get desynced from each other. You can tell this because when you go to flash Rat at the end of the cycle, the humming noise that Cat plays will either get loud way before or way after you go to flash Rat. In older versions, this desync would be purposeful, but this was actually patched in version 3.1.0 of FNAC 3 but better, along with the change to the laser pointer. While in those versions you could try and fix the desync, since Rat and Cat were always supposed to be in sync in this version, there's really nothing you can do, sadly.
What? What the fuck is that?
Thankfully this bug isn't super common, but it's still possible to die to. So now that we know how to do the night, here's some tips I have to make this easier. Similar to Puppet Master All challenges, a practice mod exists for both Rat and Cat, and thankfully this one is still public. A link to the practice mod will be in the document linked in the description that has music and video credits, along with the written version of this guide and links to the game and other resources. This practice mod really focuses on Rat and Cat's attacks rather than the bed cycles, so it's very helpful when you're first trying to improve at Rat and Cat All challenges. You can practice Rat and Cat's attacks from all locations, as well as each variation of Cat's 2 phases. Another big tip is to stay patient. There is a lot of bullshit that can happen this night that we'll get into later, so staying patient and not getting frustrated is very helpful. A good mindset to have is knowing that if you can do one full cycle, then you can beat the entire night. This sounds incredibly optimistic, but that's really how it is. Since the night is incredibly similar throughout, having this mindset really helps a lot. Another tip that helped me a lot with Rat and Cat's left and especially their right attacks is to make all almost an L shape, then look for their head. Doing this can help you see all of their positions while also not giving them an opportunity to empty their progression bar. When they're in the middle, you can just make a curved line since rat and cat's 3 positions are in that shape rather than a triangle like in their positions in the other parts of the room. A small thing you can do to make your life a little easier is turning up the gamma on your monitor, but it's not as helpful as it is in Puppet Master All Challenges. Finally, the most important tip I have is to trust your muscle memory with your life. Eventually, after you practice rat and cat's attacks enough, you will be able to move to their different positions the second they move. While it might feel very robotic at first, it's really just how muscle memory works. For me, turning my brain off and letting my autopilot do both of rat and cat's attacks and then focusing during the bed cycle worked best, which was super weird since for PMAC, I had to be laser focused for the entire night. I guess muscle memory worked better with rat and cat all challenges since rat and cat's attacks have fixed positions rather than Vinny's many different positions in his circular attacks, but I'm no expert. Now that we know everything about rat and cat all challenges, how was I doing with it? Actually, it was going surprisingly well. After I beat Puppet Master all challenges, I decided to do Nightmare at Disney and Five Nights at Treasure Island but Dumb as a quick easy break after the hell I went through with PMAC. I'll have a video coming out eventually about NAD since I wanted to make this one first, so make sure to look out for that soon. After I beat NAD, I had about a week before I'd go on vacation for a week and I was going to resume True Nightmare No Postmortem. True Nightmare No Postmortem is the hardest max mode in Oblitus Casa, which is another popular FNAF fan game. I had originally started as a new hardest before PMAC, but while I had enough skill to beat it, I wanted to do PMAC as a nice 8 to 10 hour thing to improve my aim to make TNNPM a bit easier, and we all know how that went. I was going to resume TNNPM after I beat Nightmare at Disney, but since I had such a limited amount of time before I left on vacation, I decided to see if I could beat Rat and Cat all challenges instead. While I wasn't super confident at first, I realized that this was the best option since even if I didn't beat it before I left, I would be able to play it on my laptop if necessary. I was going to spend my spare time during vacation to relearn True Nightmare No Postmortem, but my piece of shit laptop couldn't even run Oblitus Casa at the time, so Rat and Cat all challenges was going to be the better option. Even though I could play Rat and Cat all challenges while on vacation, I had zero faith in my ability to beat it on my shitty laptop setup. If I was going to have a realistic chance at beating this max mode, it was going to be at home before I left for vacation. I came to that conclusion on stream after playing NAD for a while and needed a break. After that, I decided I'd beat NAD quickly off stream the next day, and I spent the rest of that stream learning the full cycle and Rat and Cat all challenges. I leave on vacation next Saturday, and I think I can realistically beat NAD tomorrow, and then I'm gonna be relearning No Postmortem and then going on vacation where I don't think my laptop can run Oblitus Casa. I know it can run this, but I know it can't run Oblitus Casa, which is very funny, but also depressing. So this might honestly be the play, because there's no shot I'm gonna be able to do NAD tomorrow, relearn No Postmortem, and beat it in a week before I leave on vacation for a week. So this honestly might be the play. I can't do that because I work for 30 hours next week. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I feel good enough. I was good enough for No Postmortem. I just wanted to get better. It's No Postmortem isn't that much harder than the stuff I've done. I could have done it before. It's just, I needed time to refine my strategy, and I thought, better aim from PMAC will make it easier, and then PMAC turned into PMAC, so. If I play it tomorrow, I'm definitely beating NAD. If I get a 2 a.m. mind walk before I leave on vacation, I can still play this when I'm on vacation. The only reason I'm considering doing this is because I can't run Oblitus Casa on my shitty laptop. So I might honestly do this. I think that's the play. I'd gotten bored at some point during the PMAC grind and attempted to learn Rat and Cat all challenges for fun, but I could never figure out how to deal with Classic Cat, so instead I learned Rat and Cat all challenges minus Classic Cat. Thanks to the help of Oofy Boom and a few others, I was able to get the cycle down and actually got a few decent attempts, including a deep 2 a.m. run. Overall, I started having pretty decent consistency, which was very motivating since I had such a hard time learning the cycle to begin with. 2 days later, I randomly started playing Rat and Cat all challenges, and then this happened.
But I thought I switched him. What do you mean that was 4? What?
This was when I really started relying on my muscle memory since I'd been practicing rat and cat's attacks a lot and had gotten pretty good at them. I was actually having a lot of fun, which was something that really surprised me. Both PMAC and rat and cat all challenges really don't fit my playstyle when it comes to max modes, since I like really fast max modes with a lot of quick problem solving, like Blood 720, most of the max modes in FNAC 2 but better, Nightmare at Disney, etc. I had already really not liked PMAC for the most part, and I expected rat and cat all challenges to be similar, if not worse, because of how intimidated I was by it. About 30 minutes later, I got another good attempt, this one nearly getting to 5 AM. This is when I experienced another difficult part of rat and cat all challenges, nerves. I had experienced really bad nerves with PMAC at the start, but after I'd gotten to 3 AM over a dozen times, they were pretty manageable for the most part. With rat and cat all challenges, nerves messed with me in a much different way. PMAC nerves just made my accuracy really bad, and overall just made me not feel great, while rat and cat all challenges nerves made me overthink every movement I did. This might not sound like much, but if you remember how I play this max mode, I tend to zone out and trust my muscle memory during rat and cat's attacks and actually use my brain during the bed cycle. Overthinking each movement I did made my movements much slower during their attacks, which would just get me killed. I could afford to second guess myself during the bed cycle because at the end of the day, there were only a few different things that could happen, all of which I knew how to deal with. When I got nerves in rat and cat all challenges, I had to not only continue to play well, but I also had to stay zoned out for short periods of time, lock in for a little bit, and then zone out again. I know this sounds really stupid, and to be fair it is, but this is what made the night much easier for me. After I got that second 4 AM attempt, I started my second stream of rat and cat all challenges. I didn't expect much since it was late at night, and when I'm tired, my muscle memory goes to shit, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to continue to improve my consistency. My consistency was pretty good throughout the stream, and I was able to get a 3 AM attempt. I was slightly frustrated because this is when I started getting a bunch of stupid deaths. A lot of them I can attribute to just being tired, but it was still a bit annoying. 2 days after that, I did a short session off stream since I was super tired after work, and I got 2 more 3 AM attempts, but had the same issue I had during the second stream where I was just too tired to rely on my muscle memory. At this point, I started not getting nervous anymore since I could get to 2 AM pretty consistently, and even with slight nerves, I could still keep my pattern of zoning in and out for a bit. I was also starting to run out of time since I could only play for a few more days before I left for vacation, which brings us to the final challenge in rat and cat all challenges. I feel like a fucking idiot. Alright, let's just do this nice and fast. So, as you can see, I am out here on this vacation I have alluded to for, I don't know, probably the last segment of the video. And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of really talk about the end of what happened. Let's have a talk about pressure. Pressure is a really interesting thing because it can either make you play infinitely better or it's gonna completely screw you over. God, there's like people out here too. Fuck. All right, we're nice and fast. Pressure will either carry you to doing one of the most insane things you've ever done in your life, or it's gonna completely break you. And there's really no in between. And there's no specific thing that makes either of those things happen. It's just completely random, at least in my experience. Maybe other people, you know, deal with that differently, but I'm me, so I'm talking about me. Let's focus in on the last Rat and Cat All Challenges stream. So I had a lot of pressure on myself to beat it then because that was really my last opportunity to beat it before I left on this vacation that I'm on right now. While I would have been able to play Rat and Cat All Challenges while I would be on vacation, there was a slim to none chance of me actually beating it because my laptop setup is very messy and my laptop in general runs the game like crap, and I didn't want to risk not beating it and then being able to play it here but doing completely horrible and just lose all of my consistency until I got back home the following week. Really, my last legitimate chance of beating Rat and Cat All Challenges was that Wednesday night before I left on vacation that Friday. So basically, it was I beat it that Wednesday night or I don't beat it for at least another week and a half, because that Thursday I was really busy since I was finishing up work for the summer, and then Friday I was doing stuff with friends and then leaving that night for the beach where I am right now. Before the stream, I had done a biking workout, which is why you initially see my heart rate as high as it was, because that's just how recovery works. I'm not gonna get into all that, but if you were there throughout the entire stream, and as you see throughout these clips, my heart rate really doesn't go below the 100s for the entire thing. I was purely just stressed the hell out because I had put so much pressure on myself to beat it in that time frame. It was do or die for that Wednesday night. I think saying I had a lot of really bad deaths was a understatement. Basically, all the deaths I had were because I either didn't have enough game knowledge, which, I mean, that's just on me. I didn't need to go into as much depth and testing that I usually do for super hard max mode because it's just, up until this point, I was just tearing through rat and cat all challenges, which wasn't something I was expecting at all. You know, going into it, I was incredibly intimidated by it because when I was first getting into fan games max modes months and months ago, rat and cat all challenges was one of the first I saw, and it just intimidated me. You know, it doesn't fit my skill set at all. It's not easy. I mean, even the nerfed laser pointer, it's still not easy. It really intimidated me a lot for something in the difficulty range that it was. But yeah, I'd lose all my runs. I'd either lose to lack of game knowledge,
No way! I must have been too far left by pixels. What the fuck? You're telling me that is too far?
me just doing something stupid because I folded under the pressure.
Bullshit, was that off your hitbox, man? Ooh, this mode is bending me over tonight. Okay. Ooh! Oh my fucking god. Yeah, good job, fucking idiot. Oh my god. Oh, just nerve stuff. No! I thought it was... God! Oh my god, how was that not it? It was 5 for so long! Dude! 204? What? Why did it? It should have ended 5 seconds ago! Nights are 8 minutes, right? The attempt started at 2:04 in this clip. I died at 10:08. That's more than 8 minutes! What the fuck? 8:10? You're telling me I was 5 seconds off and I fucked up because I thought I saw cat when it was rat? Oh my god, man.
Or just pure RNG.
What the hell? Oh my god, thank you, cat. What? What the fuck is that? Every time I think I've seen it all. I don't know what happened. Like, I know they can slowly get desynced, but they went from perfectly synced to like way out of sort. Like, I don't even know.
I'd say about 85 to 90% of RACAC all challenges is pure skill, but you can get situations that are just unwinnable or are winnable enough with like an insane amount of skill and game knowledge and just stuff I hadn't prepared for. And every bad death I had late into the night, and there was a lot of them, just made me more upset because I shouldn't have done a lot of the bad deaths that happened. A lot of them were just on me. There were a few that I straight up couldn't have won, but most of them were on me because I was just so stressed out because I'd put so much pressure on myself to beat it then.
I'm not doing great. Sorry, I'm in a bad mood. It's just, this is realistically the last chance I'm gonna have to beat this for like a week and a half. I'm kind of stressed.
Every bad death just made this giant snowball effect of stress and pressure, and me being miserable, which just made everything even worse. But somehow, despite all this, I was playing the best I'd ever played RACAC all challenges. Because like I said, pressure has that weird ability to just make you do better. And with RACAC all challenges during this stream, I felt a weird mix of both, where the way I play RACAC all challenges is I completely zone out during RACAC's attacks because my muscle memory is good enough to just handle all of that, because if I use my brain, then I just move slower. It's really weird. I don't understand that at all, but that's what worked for me. And then once I get to the bed cycle, that's when I actually use my brain, since there's a decent bit of problem solving during that. When I felt pressure, the pressure made me play better when I had to rely on my muscle memory, and it made me play infinitely worse when I actually had to use my brain. So it was just this weird mix, and I had a lot of bad deaths that I really felt like I reached my breaking point with, and then I'd keep playing, and then I'd get a worse death, and it would just reset. Overall, it was the most miserable I've ever been playing a max mode. It was way worse than any session of HRN I did, any PMAC session, any of that. A lot of it was because literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and me putting pressure on myself, and that just compounding into just me feeling like I was going to explode from stress the entire stream. It was pretty bad, and despite playing the best I'd ever played before, I still didn't feel like I could have beaten it at all. Every attempt I started, I was just pushing myself to play it because, you know, it was the last chance I had. Until finally, I started one last attempt of RACAC all challenges.
Oh fuck, I went the wrong way. How the fuck? Let's see what happens. That was completely my fault. I forgot what side I had Classic on. That would have been fine if I went to the other side. Like, deaths like that I'm completely fine with, because that's just 100% my fault. I'm a please end. Ooh, another one of these. This is awesome. Oh, that's actually good. Thank you, RNGesus. That was close. Yo! I'm gonna savor these 6 stars. Oh my god. I was so nervous. Like, my hand was going numb. I was so nervous. Because my hands were that cold and shaky, and my arm hurt on top of that. Oh my god.
My overall thoughts on RACAC All Challenges is that it's not nearly as bad as it felt during that final stream. A lot of that, again, was just a mix of pressure and literally everything going wrong at once. And I won't lie, it's actually a very fun max mode when you're not having a bunch of bullshit happen to you and you're playing well. When all that's going right, it's a very, very fun max mode. But when everything is going wrong, it is, oh man, it's infuriating at best. I think enjoyment-wise, I'd give it like a 75 out of 100. If it was a little more consistent and fair at some points, I'd definitely give it a lot higher, probably closer to the 85-90 range, but man, when stuff is going very poorly, it's miserable, absolutely miserable. As for how hard I think it is, it's not nearly as hard as I thought it would be going into it, because like I said, I was incredibly intimidated by this, and I thought it was gonna be PMAC 2.0, but maybe I'd do it a little faster since I was just better at how the game works because I'd spent way too long on PMAC. It's definitely a 4th hardest. If I had to do my top 5 right now, this is all just personal opinion, not what the list says. I don't really care what the list says. I'm past that point of caring what a list says. I've learned that from the many years I've spent in the GD community. My top 5, based on solely my opinion, is Puppet Master All Challenges. I know it's easier than Blood 720 and HRN. It felt impossible for me. I don't want to hear anything about it. PMAC, Blood 720, HRN, RACAC All Challenges, and then probably 820 faulty equipment, but I've done harder things than that, which is our next topic. What is next?